All right, we're good to go. Hi everyone. One more thing I need to do is push the code base for today. So let me do that really quickly. Code for week 13. Push origin head. All right. We can start. Hi everyone. Welcome to week 13.2. Yesterday we did Tailwind. Until now we have covered React. We don't have anything left in React after this, do we? I think so. I'll check the syllabus again. From the top of my head, I can't think of anything left other than us understanding how to migrate to TypeScript. So pretty much next week onwards, we can either build a project or move on to Postgres Prisma and then build a project. Either is fine. I think it might be just good to hash out Postgres and Prisma really quickly and then start to build projects, because then bhai, full stack is done. Now it's all your efforts. How clean code you can write and how clean UIs you can write. Of course, the syllabus has much more to cover in the end, like Next.js and some more things. But generally, I think you're in a good spot to build the projects that that you might want to build. So today we're going to try some mildly challenging tasks. This screen that you see over here. Let me just ask. Let's start with the poll. How many of you can build this screen yourself? Pixel perfect. I repeat, pixel perfect with some components in there in React. Give me a yes or a no. Can you, whatever you see on screen, can you build this in Tailwind? Surprised that 62% say no. I would have assumed it would have been a yes mostly, but 60% said no, 40% said yes. There's not much that the 40% will learn. Let me give you a few things you can do if you're in the 40%. The things that I was doing right before the class was going through some of the CMS code and figuring out how sidebars have been done over here. So if you go to app.nextdevs.com and if you are logged in, you will see that the sidebar here is pretty neat. Number one, it has animations. I already see a bug. When you make it really small, do you see the problem here? This is like really long in one direction, not as much. This should be a square basically. I think that happens when the screen is small enough, but on a very wide screen, which I'm on right now. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sharing the wrong screen. I am sharing the wrong screen. Sorry about that, guys. Quickly share the right screen. There we go. Is that one good? I think it is. All right. Sorry, I was sharing the wrong screen. This is the right screen. I already see a few bugs here, but if you look at it, this is a decent implementation of a sidebar, which is one of many things that front-end developers dread to make. Another good thing here is when you make the screen really small, the sidebar sort of becomes a bottom bar, similar to a mobile navigation. And if you increase it back, it becomes a sidebar again. On some mobile devices, even before on app.nextdevs.com, what would happen is when you collapse it really small, you have a button over here that you can use to toggle. That's probably one difficult bit of building a front end like the one that we're building today. What are we building today? This doesn't have a toggle. This design is fairly simple, but we should add it. We should make it responsive. We should make sure if the screen is really small, the sidebar goes away, and you can toggle the sidebar on and off. Or we can try to build what's in app.nextdevs.com, which is this appears at the bottom. The only other call out or good thing over here is that there's a lot of animations. When I change the state of the sidebar, notice it doesn't open immediately, it just pops out. There's also like spring animations from time to time. It doesn't, if you look at it, when it opens, it reaches over here and then springs back to the final position. These are good things to add. For all of this, you would need a library like Framer. I think app.nextdevs.com does use Framer. I was looking at the code a while back. We want to get as fancy today. We will stick to Tailwind. Tailwind is what we understand, and we'll try to build the UI today. What is the UI? This is the UI that we're building. Without any further ado, let's try to get right into it. We have 100x devs cohort 3/week 13 OTP box. I think this is where all the code for today is. I repeat, if you open this and go to readme.md, that looks right. This is the repository from yesterday. I've just pushed the code for today here as well. So would urge you to clone this locally and then we'll go from there. These are the things that we learn at a high level. Not too difficult stuff. If you understood Tailwind yesterday, this should be fairly simple. Then we'll start to implement all the screens or this specific screen, but through some simple steps so that we have a simple sidebar and then a better sidebar, and then eventually we'll try to reach the final sidebar. Cool. Please clone the repository locally. I'll give you guys a minute. Let's start again at 8:10. I already have it locally. So, that's what you see on my screen. If you don't want to code along, then feel free to, take a break for 2 minutes, then we'll start. For everyone else, please clone the repository locally. We'll try to go through the code and see how can we learn about transitions, which aren't a Tailwind specific concept. They happen in CSS. How can you do them in Tailwind? Creating sidebars, one thing that I said, developers dread to make from time to time. Absolute versus fixed versus relative positioning. If you look at our design, this specific card is slightly hovered above. There is a div overlapping with another div. This is above the div behind it. So how do you build something like this? This is a fairly common thing you'll see on various websites. Completing the design, and I'll talk a bit about, dark mode, which is also fairly simple in Tailwind. The only difficult bit in Tailwind, which, I was figuring out a while back, was how can you toggle between modes when you have a website that's written in Tailwind. It's easier to do when you're using Next.js. Slightly hard, not hard, but like very weird the way you have to toggle themes in Tailwind and React. So we'll understand that. If you understand all of this, feel free to drop off. I would say it's a fairly slow class, but highly implementation based, which means we'll be coding a lot. All right. With that, let's get right into it. There's a lot of code here. That's the solutions. Let's try to build it ourselves. Okay. The first thing, what is the most naive implementation you can think of to build something like this? There is a sidebar on the left where you're going to put a bunch of things. There is some content on the right where you're going to, put these rest of things. What is the simplest way to do it? Let me create a new folder here called answers. And here I'm going to create our very first component for today. I'm going to name this file one basic project.jsx. Let me increase the font size. One basic project.jsx. Here we will try a naive implementation of a sidebar, nothing too complicated. What is the most naive way to create a sidebar? Create a function called whatever, sidebar class 1. This is the name of my function. You can name it whatever you want. And here, what do I need if you think about it? I need two divs right next to each other. That is it. How can I create a div that is the sidebar and then another div that is the content? How can I put them side by side? Do we remember that if the parent has class name set to flex, then the children appear side by side? So this might be a step in the right direction. Let's see if it is. Let me also change the background color here. BG red 200. And for this guy, BG green 200. Now, if this feels weird, we covered this yesterday. This is how you add styles in Tailwind. If you want to give a background color of red, this is how you give it. If you want to give a background color of green, this is how you give it. If you want to make it slightly darker green, then you can change the shade to be 800. Is this good enough? Might be. Let's see. Let's see what does this look like in our final application. I'm going to import this sidebar class 1. I repeat, the sidebar class 1 component that I created, which has a parent div, which has display set to flex. This is the same as doing this. I can also write this. I can also write class name equal to flex. They both do the same thing. This is the first child. This is the second child. Let's go to app.jsx. Remove everything from here and simply import the sidebar class 1 component. This is what I'm rendering in my application right now, and that is it. Nothing else I'm rendering. Sidebar class 1 component, which I just created a few seconds ago. Let's see what it looks like. Step 1, install all the dependencies. npm install. Happened very quickly for me because I already had the dependencies. Step 2, npm run dev. When I run that, and if I go to localhost colon 5173, what do I see? I see something. It doesn't look like what we want. So let's see how we can fix that. Can we slowly try to create a sidebar and some contents on the right? Can you guys try? Take a minute and try to convert this code so it looks right. This is the current code. Oh, sorry, this isn't the current code. Sidebar 3. Sidebar class. Oh wait, what did I call it? One basic project, my bad. Sidebar class 1. This renders this. Can you guys try to change it? Let's take a 2-minute whatever break, or not a break, like try to code it. Then we'll do a poll and see how many of you were able to do it yourself. Very simple. There should be a sidebar of, let's say, 200 pixels over here. There should be content on the right. That's the rest of the width. And you don't have to make it responsive yet. Abhi ke liye just itna code kar lo. Okay, can you create a sidebar and the main contents in Tailwind, not in simple CSS? Let me start a clock. Countdown. Stopwatch 2 minutes. Oh boy, that's bad. Yeah, never mind. I'll do it by muscle memory. I think we have 1 minute 30 seconds left. Let me look at Q&A until then if someone has any question. What is the task? The code on the left creates this code on the right now. This is what we want to make, sort of. We want to make a sidebar on the left and main contents on the right. Right now we have written code that looks like this. So how can I make a pink sidebar and green contents on the right? All videos are getting uploaded to harkira.classes.co.in. This is easy. I know. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Let's do a poll in another 30 seconds and then we'll know how easy it is. I know it is easy, but like, I don't know. People are very different, so it's very hard to tell. All right, 30 more seconds and we'll do a poll. All right, Akash, fire away. %. What does that tell you? 40% were already able to do it, 30% were extra were able to do it, 30% weren't able to do it. So that means there's an equalish distribution of beginner, advanced, super advanced people who already knew it. So we'll try to slowly build up to the 30%. It wasn't too difficult. You had to fix the width of the first guy. कि यार तेरी width तो certain pixels hogi. So this is how you can do it in Tailwind. You should have Googled this. Okay, how can you set width in Tailwind? And you know the answer would have been something like this. You can either do this. This is one way to do it. W dash, let's say 200 pixels. I want iski width to be 200 pixels. I want iski height to be what? To the complete height of this screen. If the screen is 500 pixels, this should be 500 pixels as well. If I save this, I see that the left sidebar now is full height, 200 pixels width. Generally, you should avoid putting raw values like this. Tailwind has, width. Very nice sort of default width points. For example, W-8, W-9, W-10, W-40, 44, 48, 52, 56. These are standard ones that you might use. You can also configure them in tailwind.config.js. So it's generally a good idea to use these rather than hard coding your own value. So let's try 64, W-64. Let's see what it looks like. Looks something like this. Good enough for us. Looks like a decent sidebar. Main content. Isko kya karna hai? It needs to take the full width that it can. इसको पूरी width लेनी है जितनी ले सकता है. How can you do that? You can either set flex to 1 if you remember from yesterday. Yesterday what did we do? We wrote something like this if you remember. Style flex 1 and then the other one had flex 2. Oh sorry, this didn't. Yeah, there you go. This basically means that I'm going to take all the space that I can on either sides. अगर मैं इसके side पे भी एक div डालता whose width was let's say 20 pixels, 20 pixels would have come here, whatever some pixels came here, this would have taken the full width. So this is one thing you can do. Of course, I am doing this raw. I am not doing this using Tailwind. I'm sure there's a way to do it in Tailwind as well. I'm sure this isn't it. There's probably a different way to do it in Tailwind, or this might be it actually. But the other thing you can do is you can simply set width to 100%. I think that may or may not work. Let's see. Width 100%. That works as well. And the way to do that in Tailwind is W dash full. So now do we have a basic-ish sidebar and contents? Yahan pe of course we have to change a lot of things. Here we have to change a lot of things. But how was I able to build it? The most naive thing that should have come to your head, display flex. Parent is going to have 2 children. Child number 1, which is the sidebar. Child number 2, which is the content. This is the sidebar. This is the content. यहाँ पे हम सारा अपना front end code लिखेंगे. Here we'll write the sidebar logic. What is the next step? Making it responsive. If I make it really small, sidebar should go away. If I make it big, sidebar should come back. So firstly, let me increase this to 78 or something. 76, 72, 84. What are the standard widths here? 72, 80, 96. Let's make it 96. This is what it looks like right now. This is what it looks like on full screen. Decentish, but the problem is it is not responsive. If I go beyond a certain breakpoint, I want the sidebar to go away. We'll come to how we can start it again in mobile. But when I go beyond a specific breakpoint, I want the sidebar to hide away, to go away. How can you do that? Do we remember from yesterday? What did we do yesterday? Yesterday, we learned about the breakpoints in Tailwind. We learned about there are breakpoints like SM, MD, LG, XL, 2XL in Tailwind. इनका मतलब क्या होता है कि when your screen is really small, almost similar to a mobile device, less than some 720 pixels or 648 pixels, then that is the SM breakpoint. SM stands for small. Then beyond this point, it is medium. This is the medium breakpoint. इसके आगे जाओगे, this might be the large endpoint. This might be the XL endpoint. This might be the 2XL breakpoint. So these are what are called breakpoints. And usually on one of these breakpoints, you want your layout to change. In our case, we want when it becomes really small, sidebar hides away. So how can you do that? You can change the visibility of elements in Tailwind by setting, I think, display to visible, visibility to visible, or visibility to hidden. So if I want to hide a specific thing, this probably isn't the better way to do it. There are better ways of doing this. If you make it display none is probably the better way to go here. Display hidden. I get it. Like, is visibility better or is display none better? Hidden is better. But wouldn't it leave space on the sidebar? It doesn't. So display none does. One of these two does, right?
Display none is equal to hidden.
But here on the screen, if you look at it, oh, hidden. Exactly. Perfect. So yeah, you can try doing this as well. इसमें problem आएगी. क्यों मैं बता देता हूँ. If you use set visibility to hidden, so that element still stays there. It just becomes invisible. तो आपकी sidebar रहेगी वहाँ, बस छुप जाएगी. Versus if we use display, if we set display to be hidden, तब वो actually चली जाती है. It actually goes away from the DOM. तो let's try it out. हमें क्या करना है कि जो sidebar है, by default it should be visible. By default, it should be visible, or it will be harder. So block. But when you go above the MD breakpoint, let's say, then it should become visible. By default, it should be hidden. अब ये फिर से दिमाग खराब करता है थोड़ा. Yesterday we discussed mobile first design. Tailwind expects कि यार, let's make this a little simpler to write. Let me write this code first. Forget all the visibility things. Let me write this. Background is red. MD background green or yellow. This is the code that I've written. What is the code that I've written? Here by default, the background should be red. MD breakpoint के ऊपर it should be yellow. Let's see, does that happen? If I'm small, you're right. This will become 400. If I'm below the MD breakpoint, I am pink or red. If I am above it, I am yellow. Even though I have written MD BG yellow 400, ऐसा लगता है कि इसका मतलब है कि when you are at the MD breakpoint, medium breakpoint, इसके बाद you will be yellow. And that is what happens. But ऐसा लगता है कि इसके पहले you will be yellow. What happens is कि अगर आपने लिखा है MD yellow, that means after the MD breakpoint, after the medium breakpoint, after 720 pixels, you will be yellow. Before 720 pixels, you will be this default value. तो हमें क्या चाहिए कि below 720 pixels, it remains hidden. And after it becomes visible, if you set display to block, that happens. One thing I need to do is I need to make this also full screen, like the thing on the right, so that both this and this appear, take the full width or full height of the screen. Now, if I make this bigger, sidebar appears, make it smaller, sidebar goes away. I know it's a little hard to digest. What I've done here is कि by default छुपी रहेगी, by default sidebar is hidden, by default display is set to hidden. When you make it slightly bigger, when it goes above the MD breakpoint, I set display to block. What does setting display to block do? It makes it appear. There are various attributes that you can give to display. Block and hidden. Hidden will hide it, block will unhide it. But there are other, attributes that you can give. Display flex we have done. What does it do? Does something to the children. Display hidden will hide it. Display block will make it appear. That is how the hidden and the non-hidden logic right now works. We sort of have a responsive sidebar. But let's see how many of us were able to understand this. Do you guys understand how the code on the left translates to, this thing on the right? कि छोटी screens पे sidebar goes away, बड़ी screens पे you see the sidebar. Let's do a poll. %85%. Q&A for like just 1 minute, and for everyone who was able to do it, next step is going to be animating it. When I make it smaller, like this, it should animate and go to this. And when I make it bigger, it should animate and come out, just like it happens on app.100xsteps.com. If I go to app.100xsteps.com, if I click on this, it animates to open, it animates to close. Same thing you have to figure out from first principles. Try to do that. You will need something called transition from here. So try to go through this and figure this out. For everyone else, let me look at Q&A for like a minute and then we'll proceed to transitions. What is the difference between style and class name? Yeah, so Tailwind is just another way to write CSS. It is a library that lets you write CSS inline, very similar to style. If you don't have the Tailwind library in your React project, then you write CSS like this, background, color, red. We've been doing this for a really long time now. हमने HTML में भी CSS ऐसे लिखा था, inline CSS. In React also, this is how you write inline CSS. But if you are using the Tailwind library, which everyone uses, then it gives you, constructs like these. कि अगर background color को कुछ color करना है, you have to use this BG Green 800 class. What is this? It is just a class in the end. अगर आप यहाँ जाके देखो, I have just assigned a class to this specific element. Div class equal to BG Red Green. The BG Red Green class, or what, BG Green 800 class has background color set to this variable. That is how, this text translates to CSS over here. Default is hidden and after responsive it changes. Yes. Please zoom out on the screen on the browser also. Oh. Zoom out. This is 100%. What exactly does, okay, so a lot of people are asking this. Okay, what exactly does MD:block do? What exactly does hidden do? Why does this translate to what we see on the screen? Let me recap this. Yesterday, we understood this. Okay, in Tailwind, if you go through the slides from yesterday, what did we discuss? We said Tailwind has a mobile first approach. Oh, see Daisy. We said Tailwind has a mobile first approach. By default, Tailwind uses a mobile first breakpoint system. What this means is that unprefixed utilities take effect on all screen sizes. Unprefixed utilities. What is my unprefixed utility here? Hidden. This will appear on all screen sizes. Doesn't matter where you are. While prefixed utilities, MD:, whatever you are giving, only take effect at that specific breakpoint and above. What have I done? Hidden will take place everywhere. So ideally, it should be hidden everywhere. Let me remove this. And as you can see, it's completely hidden. But since I added a prefix MD:block, what will this do? This will say, यार जब अब आप एक certain point से बड़े हो गए हो, when you are above the MD breakpoint, the sidebar will appear. This will set display to be block. Display block makes it appear. Display hidden makes it disappear. Display flex makes it appear also and makes its children appear right next to each other. I can also make this flex. It will do the same thing. I just have to make sure display isn't hidden anymore. If display is hidden, then it will not appear. But if I go above the MD breakpoint now, this is the MD breakpoint. If I go above it, display gets set to flex. I see the sidebar. If I go below it, then this doesn't take effect. This takes effect. This takes effect by default. To recap, in Tailwind, there is mobile first approach. What this means is unprefixed utilities take effect on all screen sizes. Prefixed one takes at that breakpoint and above. Where this approach surprises people most often is that to style something for mobile, you need to use the unprefixed version. समझ आ रहा है ना why this is confusing? This is confusing because अगर आपने MD flex लिखा है तो ऐसा लगता है कि यार मीडियम और छोटे पे फ्लेक्स होना चाहिए, बट एक्चुअल में मीडियम और बड़े पे फ्लेक्स होता है. यू फील लाइक कि एट द मीडियम ब्रेक पॉइंट एंड बिलो display flex should appear, but at the medium breakpoint and above the flex, display flex appears. This is the default value that appears everywhere. It gets overridden by this at the MD breakpoint and above. That is how the sidebar appears right now. Question is, how do you make it animate? There is a very common way to do animations in CSS. It's called transition. Let me show you a simpler example. Here is an example called sidebar to transition. I already have a component here. Answers is what we are writing today. This is some code that I wrote before the class to slowly help us build up to the final sidebar. If you look at sidebar to transition.jsx, this is the code that I've written. Very long class. The class says transform all the properties. I'll come to what all the properties is, what transform is. Duration, 1 second. background color is red by default, but if you hover over the button, then background color should become green. Padding is 4, but if you hover over the button, padding becomes 8. Now this looks very normal, even though we haven't discussed hover yet, but नाम से समझ आ रहा होगा कि if you hover over that button, तो ये कलर हो जाना चाहिए. If you don't hover over it, then ये कलर हो जाना चाहिए. Question is, what are these two doing? This is telling कि यार जब भी कुछ transition हो, whenever you change from this color to let's say this color, it should happen for 1 second, 1000 milliseconds. जब भी आप कुछ transition कर रहे हो, तो 1000 सेकेंड के लिए वेट करना and make it transition through an animation from point 1 to point 2. Similarly here, when the padding increases, it should increase over the span of 1 second from 4 to 8. Transform all says कि जितनी भी properties हैं इसमें, opacity, colors, font size, padding, margins, कोई भी अगर change हो, transform it. If you want to transform a specific thing, you can transform, whatever color over here. But we want कि यार जितनी भी properties हैं, सारी transform हो जाए in a duration of 1 second. Let's see, does that happen? Let me open this here and let me render the sidebar 2 transition component. If I go back to app.jsx, let me render sidebar 2 transition here. You see a button. This code is this code right here. It's a button, but when I hover over it, what should happen? Padding should increase. Background color should become green. Does that happen? Yes. But does that happen over a span of 1 second through animations? It does. So that is how you can do animations in Tailwind, and under the hood this is CSS only. Tailwind isn't something special. It's not doing any JavaScript. It is just setting CSS properties on this specific element that is, causing the thing to animate. Let me find it, if I can find it really quickly. Button, transform all. Variables. Let's try to find it here after the class. Oh, yeah, at the end of the class, sorry. Also search, right? Just give me one more second. Let me try searching it. There you go. Transition duration 1000 milliseconds is a class, sorry, duration 1000 जो मैंने यहाँ दिया था. This is a class that I gave. And if you look at the class, क्या कर रही है वो? It is setting a CSS property on this element. So it's not doing something special. You can use CSS to animate. That is what we are doing here as well. Only we are doing it through classes and not through raw CSS. तो अगर ये हो गया, if you understand transform a little bit, and you remember the code that we have already written, can you try animating the sidebar? ये कोड ऑलरेडी साइड बार को हाइड भी कर रहा है, विजिबल भी कर रहा है. दिस कोड इज ऑलरेडी मेकिंग द साइड बार गो अवे एंड कम बैक. कैन यू एनिमेट इट गिवन you know कि हाँ this तो actually does the thing and animates this specific button? Try it out for 2 minutes or maybe take 5 minutes, that is fine. Let me go back to app.jsx and let me replace this with sidebar class 1. And when I refresh, I see this. The only problem is it is not animating. How can I make it animate? 4 minutes and then we'll proceed. Is this also easy? Let me look at Q&A. This may or may not be easy. Can you zoom out the screen of the browser also? When you were on the Tailwind documentation on that browser, it was... okay. Zoom in you mean, not zoom out. Easy, alright, let's do it then. Yesterday's class is uploaded on harkira.classes.co.in. All classes will just be uploaded there. It got uploaded a little bit later though, so I do apologize. It got uploaded like 2 hours ago. Alright, seems like this is easy only. Why don't you... I'm happy to discuss your code at the end. I think directly building a sidebar will be very overwhelming, which is why I'm building up to it. But at the end of the class, we can look at your code as well. Show the animation code once more. It's already in the slides, but here it is. So now the slides. There's no need for a gist. We have the code for today in 100x devs cohort 3/week 13 OTP or something like that. Repositories. There you go. We'll find the code here. Cool. 2 more minutes, then we'll proceed. Yeah, some videos aren't encrypted and that's fine. Question is the videos that are encrypted on Haki.xz code, can you download them? All right, can we do a poll, Akash? Do you need more time? Do you want to code this yourself? Do you need more time? Yes or no? If you select yes, I'll wait for another 5-10 minutes. If you select no, it's a bang 50-50, but no is slowly winning. So I'll wait for 3 more minutes and then we'll proceed, okay? Try it for 3-4 more minutes. No rush, no pressure. If you have any questions, I'm on Q&A. Transform all के बिना भी हो रहा है transition. It might actually happen. Let's see. You are right. Nimit, any thoughts? Transform all के बिना भी transition क्यों है? You don't need transform dash all as a class. What does transform all do at all? Is there even a class called transform all?
Yeah, I think it works on transform over as well. If you do transform,
Transform Tailwind. That is fine if you are relying on y q x q y.
I think it's transition all.
Transition all. Oh, it works without it as well. Yeah. It is transition all, but it works without transition all as well. That's the funny thing. Transition all, and if I refresh, it works. If I do transition none, and if I refresh, it doesn't work. So transition all, which I would assume is a class that gets attached by default, or you don't need to attach it, animates it, and if you set it to transition all, then you will see it transition up and down. If you don't set it as well, then also it is working. Read through the Discord prompt, not on app.100xdevs.com, on herkira.classics.co.in. Alright guys, we'll proceed. Some people have been able to do it. Some people might not have been able to do it. Let's see, was this easy or difficult? Sidebar class 1. This is what our thing looks like. And what do we want? We want क्या जब तू छुपे या तो दिखे, whenever you hide or you reappear, we want you to transition. So, is transition dash all delay dash 1000 good enough? हमने तो उसे कहा भाई सारी properties पे transition कर दे. तो when it goes from hidden to visible or visible to hidden, hopefully it should transition. Let's try out the same thing here. You don't need it for the second guy. As this guy transitions, the second div will start to become bigger itself. So only on this guy do we need to set some transition and some delay. If I do that, does it work? It doesn't work right now. Even though I have set transition all delay 1000, it is not animating. Can you guess why? Because it's visibility that you're changing, right? उसमें क्या animate करोगे? If I wrote opacity 0 to opacity 1, still something it understands कि अच्छा you're making it. You're going from 0 to 1. If I go from a color 1 to color 2, it understands जैसे यहाँ से यहाँ पे I can interpolate between values and go from color 1 to color 2. When you go from invisible to visible, it does not know how to transition between them, even though it's similar to, you know, what, how does it know कि मैं पहले इसको क्या करूँ? Opaque करूँ? Should I hover it to close it to the left? Should I close it to the above? How should I animate to make it zero visible? So when you're changing the visibility, or more technically in this case, you know, the display property, it will not animate. What you have to do is you have to some different way move this sidebar out of the way. तुम इस sidebar को या तो left पे लेके जाओ, या ऊपर लेके जाओ, या नीचे लेके जाओ, and animate that. That is fine. That will animate. But if you just make it invisible, how will? Sorry. Yeah, or you make, if you make it, but if you do, so Nimit suggested make opacity 0. What will happen then? Yeah, this sidebar will start to become opaque. It will go from 1 to 0 as time goes by. But do we want that? We want it to get pushed to the left. That's how we want the sidebar to closed. So you can change opacity from 1 to 0 here. उसमें क्या होगा कि this will start to go opaque over here. But we don't want that. We want कि side को जाए. So we will have to, using paddings, margins, somehow move this sidebar to the left. क्या this is your end state. And then we will see it animate from start point to end point. हम या तो इसकी width कम कर सकते हैं. That is one thing. Let me try that. मैंने transition तो on कर रखे हैं. This is the delay. If I go from, I say क्या width 96 है, but when the user goes to a bigger screen, तब width 96 है, by default width 2 है. What have I written? Here when the user is on any screen, width should be 2, but when they are on anything above the mid MD breakpoint, then it is 96. Let's see, does that happen? When they are on any screen, it is 2. When I go a little bit bigger, it expands completely. So width पे भी नहीं चला. I would have hoped it would have worked. Oh, because मैं hidden भी तो set कर रहा हूँ. Let me remove all the hidden and display blocks. अब देखते हैं. Can you see it animating? As soon as I make it small, it animates to a very small width. As soon as I make it big, it animates to a slightly bigger width. Because मैं बता रहा हूँ कि भाई इस width से इस width पे जा. If I would have changed the height, it would have animated like this. So this is one way to animate the sidebar. In a lot of websites, for example on app.100xdeps.com, what did you see? We never close the sidebar. We make it bigger, make it smaller, bigger, smaller. So if you want that, then this is exactly what you want to do. You want to have the width set to, let's say, 8 by default. And whenever you are above the MD breakpoint, then you want to make it whatever, 96 in this case. So now we have something closer to what app.100xdeps.com has. I'll put some elements over here. And when I make it bigger, then I'll put the better elements over here. So this works. But what else can I do? Another thing you can do is use the translate X CSS attribute in CSS. So if you look at translate X in CSS, what it does is it takes something and translates it horizontally, vertically, however you want. So what we can do is we can translate the sidebar to the left or to the right based on, you know, whether or not the user has opened the sidebar. So rather than doing this, I make the width 8 and then I make the width very big, what I can do is by default, I will translate X0. I will not move at all. I will stay where I am. And when the, other direction. By default, when it is on a mobile device, I will translate X by how much? मुझे कितना पीछे जाना है? how much left do I want to go? I want to go 96, whatever this unit is, on the left side. So what this will do is it will translate that div on the left side by 96, not pixels, whatever this unit is. Because I've written minus over here, it is happening in this direction. If I would have written plus, if I would have written translate x96, ये आगे चला जाता. I have written minus translate x96, तो ये पीछे जा रहा है. And what do I want कि by जब बंदा बड़ी स्क्रीन पे हो तो क्या हो, तब translate x0. So when the user is on the big screen, don't जहां था div वहीं रहने दो, let the div stay. When the user is on a small screen, move their div to the left. Let's see, does that work? Doesn't seem to work just yet. Let's make it smaller. Translate x96. Width कहाँ गई? Sorry, my bad. I think I got rid of w96. Yeah. So now when I'm on a big screen, I see the whole thing. When I'm on the small screen, it does not translate. Translate x96. That looks right to me. Translate x Tailwind. I'm sure you guys have figured it out already. Let me figure it out as well. Translate x96. That looks right. Translate x96, H screen, w96. I don't see anything wrong here. MD का translate का spelling wrong है. I just made it right. And now if I go here on the big screen, I see the sidebar. On the small screen, it gets animated to 0. It does. The content goes away. Sidebar चली जाती है. If you look at it, sidebar goes away. But the content element is still here. Why? We'll try to debug. Let's see. Inspect. When I make it smaller, the first div and the second div. Second div is present at that point. First div is present over here. Its width is still very high. Let's see why. The first div, the second div, the first div is taking this much space. We will debug this, don't worry, no rush. Flex 1 वो तो नीचे वाले एलिमेंट पे ना, लेकिन let's try to debug this, guys. Flex 1 didn't change it. Same thing, it'll do the same thing. I don't think that'll fix it though. Let's see. Did not fix it. Time to open chat and time for a $50 bounty. Apply it to parent. Apply what to parent? Remove w-96. अब it busy कर सकते हैं, but like, is that the only? Akash, just make sure whoever gave this, you keep a note of them. MD W-0, that might do it, but उसके बिना भी चल जाना चाहिए था ना? या मुझे सिर्फ वहम हो रहा है कि चलना चाहिए था? Yeah, 96 and there we go. That looks right. Sidebar goes away, sidebar comes out. The question is, why did you have to do that? If you translate, then it probably doesn't open up the space for the other div. Anyways, either way, you guys get it. Let's look at it again. after a delay of 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second, by default, oh god, this is,
अच्छा हमने hidden हटा दिया था.
हमने हटा दिया था?
Hidden नहीं है ना वहाँ पे.
Yeah, it wasn't hidden anymore.
हाँ तो hidden होगा ना.
Got it, makes sense. All right, so what did we do? Let me move them together a little bit. Translate MD. Let me move this guy over here. What we have said is कि यार by default तो width 96 होगी. No, sorry. By default तो width 0 होगी and I will be moved to the left. Do we even need this then though? Is my question. पर मान लेते हैं के लिए. By default width would be 0 and I will be moved to the left. But if the screen is MD or bigger, then the width of the sidebar would be 96 and it would translate text would be 0, which means it will stay where it was. But do you even need translate text then? I don't think so. Let's try that out. Let me remove translate text. You don't need it anymore. मतलब उसकी ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. If you have width 96, width 0, then it just works without it as well. There is a way to do it with translate text as well. You'll find it in one of these files. Let me know what did I miss. I'm sure I missed something obvious. आप width को constant रख के भी उस div को translate करा सकते हो. It probably needs absolute positioning or something is my next guess. But I'm not going there because we already have one solution over here. When I make it bigger, sidebar appears. When I make it smaller, sidebar goes away. We have done it by changing the width of that element from 96 to 0, 0 to 96. But you can also use the translate text property to do it. There is one example here you will find, most probably this third one, sidebar 3 transition, that will use the translate text property to do the same thing. Alrighty, we're done with this. What's next? A small 5-minute break, and after that we're going to do we can do one thing. We'll try to create a basic version of this. Then one more thing we have to discuss is light and dark modes, which isn't too difficult in Tailwind. So let's do this first. Let's complete this application, then discuss light mode and dark mode. Then someone built the same thing yesterday. Let's try to go through their approach and see what they built. All right, 5-minute break. We'll restart at 9 p.m. A 4-minute break. Let's look at Q&A. Let's see someone figure this out as well. हाँ वही position absolute करके it'll work. That's what I thought. Because yes, then it will not keep taking as much width. Let me try that out in a while. All right, it seems like a few people. Smooth नहीं लग रहा. I think that's just my machine. And also you can add properties like ease in, ease out. कि वो पहले slow रहे बाद में तेज जाए, पहले तेज जाए बाद में slow जाए. Or you can use framer to actually add the spring animation thingy. So yeah. What should we do in this break? Can you try building this in case you want to? Can you try building this? And one more thing we haven't done yet is when you are really small on a really small machine, a toggle button that lets you toggle between the width, the opening and closing the sidebar. How can you do that? Duration से delay smooth लग रहा है या feel laggy हो रहा है? Try it on your machine. So if you try the same thing on your machine, then you might see, if you see the same thing on me, my machine is really slow right now because of whatever, I'm sleeping. But if it happens slowly on your machine also, then you can try, what are these properties? Ease out tailwind transition. Transition. Ease in out. Let's try that. Let's see if that makes it a little bit smoother. There we go. Let's go back here. And now if I make it smaller, already did that. Or you already did that. You still feel it's not smooth enough? Let's see. This seems smooth enough to me. It's just slow for some reason. Like it's taking, probably because I have this delay to be really long. Let's make it 150 or 200. I've created one basic project file. This is the first component that I wrote. Yeah, there you go. That seems better, right? The duration was abnormally long because I wanted to show it animating. But if you remove the delay or you make it a very small value, then it'll appear more. Oh, it is duration. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. It is duration. But by duration 150, then was it just placebo that I felt? Oh, there you go. Does it feel smooth? Let's make this 2000. Does it feel unsmooth now? It still feels pretty smooth. Are you sure it was duration? Makes sense. Delay से कितनी देर बाद start होगी? That makes sense. Delay 2000. That makes sense. That is why it felt unsmooth. Because मैंने delay 2000 डाला होता तो वो 2 सेकंड के बाद start कर रहा था or whatever after 1 second. And duration is कितनी देर के लिए वो करेगा? I think you can only set certain values here. Delay 1000, duration 1000. Let's see. See, after 1 second, खुला और 1 second लेके खुला. But if I remove delay and make the duration really small, it will feel much more smoother. Cool? All right. I feel it's easier to apply transition transform in vanilla CSS. I agree. A lot of these things are easier to do, in vanilla CSS, but if Tailwind is adopted, it is adopted. You have to, whatever, know its alternates in Tailwind classes and write them. There are upsides to it. I can't think of one. This is because you can totally write whatever is written over here in a style right next to it. But people use it, so you use it. Some people say Tailwind is, it's very nuanced and debatable, and everyone has different opinions. So I have zero opinions. I just know everyone uses it. I also feel like it's slightly easier and less uglier to have a very long string than having a complex object of styles. So works out. But either way, now we will proceed. What is the next thing we have to do? We have to design the thing. What was the thing we have to design? This thing right here. Let me sprint through it and try to get as close to this as possible. Try to do the same on your side. Maybe like 15 minutes. Then let's see where we've reached. The things to learn would be how do you bring icons in Tailwind. We already discussed customizing themes yesterday, so that shouldn't be too difficult. The other thing would be how can you move it up a little bit. Again, you can use the translate y property to translate it up a little bit, and this specific card will hover over this specific card. So it's actually not too difficult to build this. If you had the Figma designs, so you could have actually copied के यहाँ border radius कितना है, what sort of box shadow is over here. So we're sort of writing it blindly and trying to assume the styles, but the actual styles, if you have the Figma style, it will be much easier to do. Okay? So even though I've already done this, if you go to sidebar 4.jsx, you'll see a very big complex thingy over here. But if I go to app.jsx and render it, sidebar 4, you'll see something close to what we want. But I'll try to start to code it again from first principles and go from there. This is sort of what we want, right? Only we want the sidebar to close completely, or we might want this only. But I would assume this is very easy to build now, considering we've already built a sidebar. So let's try to code it and go from there. Or is this too easy? This might actually be too easy. You have taught us everything. I see the sidebar 4 over here. Let me quickly take you through it. There is a state variable this time here. Now I have a state variable because we have a button, right? When you click on this button, it closes. Ab width pe close nahi ho raha hai. Now it can close randomly also. So I have a state variable called open, and this variable changes whenever I click on this button. So whenever I click on the close button, it will close or open, or it will just change the state variable. And this state variable is used where? It is used here in this div. That is setting कि हाँ भाई width या तो 72 होगी या फिर 16 होगी based on whether or not the sidebar is closed. The only thing you need to add here is कि if you ever move to a mobile device, sidebar should become small by default. I repeat, if you ever start to transition like this and you go beyond the mobile breakpoint, you should close the sidebar so that it doesn't hover over the user screen. By default, when the user opens this website on a mobile device, तब भी वो छोटी होनी चाहिए. That is it. Basically, this state variable should be initialized to true or false based on whether or not the user is on a mobile device. Mobile device पे तो false नहीं तो true. So is this too easy? If you look at it, I have a class that is animating between a width of 16 and 72 based on the open state variable. I have a button That changes the open state variable. If it is open, I render the webinar.gg logo thingy. This logo, I only render when it's open, this logo and profile picture, else I keep it closed. And then we have a bunch of list items. List item 1, list item 2, list item 3, list item 4. These list items take size as an input, which can either be small or large. It will be large if the sidebar is open. That means you need to render the icon as well as the text over here. If it is small, then you need to render just the icon. So if you look at the implementation of the list item, you will see if it is small, just render the icon. If it is big, then render the title as well as the icon. Simple enough? I would assume so. But let's do a poll. Should we build this from scratch? Yes or no? If it is yes, we'll just try to code the whole thing again. Should we build this from scratch? Yes or no? If it is a no, then we'll figure out what to do next. We can do a bunch of other things. We can pick on a random website and start to code it. We can go through the code of alberthandexapps.com and see wahan frontend kaisa hai. Wahan frontend is very nice. Even I am exploring it today. Only before the class I started to see what code is written over there. Should we proceed building this from scratch? All right, it's leading towards a yes. I hope the question was clear. Okay, I'm going to now proceed to do this from scratch. I hope the question was clear. If not, let me know in Q&A. This was the question, right? Dark mode. Oh, everyone's saying dark mode. Alrighty, let's do dark mode first. Let's do dark mode first, then we'll come back to this. Alrighty. Dark mode is simple enough. Tailwind is very notorious when it comes to dark mode. Let me just free the people jinko, who have to go and do other things. We can do the implementation at the end of the class. Let's quickly do dark mode. Every website that you see out there, even alberthandexapps.com, has this button usually that you click on it, hovers the styles everywhere. Question is, how does it happen? The answer is Tailwind by default knows, okay, every machine, my Mac machine, my default preference is false, by which I mean, sorry, not false, dark. Okay, my default theme is dark. That is why when I go to app.handexapps.com, by default, it shows me the dark theme. I can toggle it if need be to light, but by default, what I see is the dark theme. Question is, how can you do it in Tailwind? Even app.handexapps.com is written in Tailwind. And the answer is, let's try to create something. Let's go to app.jsx. Let's try to create a simple landing page similar to, whatever, this one right here. A page similar to this. So इसमें क्या होगा? We want your background color should be black if it is dark mode. It should be white if it is light mode. So the way we will write the code would look something like this. पहली बात तो I'll create a top level div. कि यार, you are going to take the full width, W dash screen, sorry, full height, H dash screen. And I'm going to say your background color क्या होना चाहिए? Should it be white or should it be black? BG dash white or BG dash whatever, blue dash 800. क्या होना चाहिए? Conditionally होना चाहिए. Ugly approach. You create a dark mode, set dark mode equal to use state true. You create a global variable called dark mode and you say here background I'm going to change based on the global variable. So I'm going to render if dark mode is true, then BG white, else BG blue 800. So this is how I'm going to render the screen. And let me create a button over here. Toggle theme. When you click on the button, we call, whatever, set dark mode to be the opposite of dark mode. If it is true, it becomes false. If it is false, it becomes true. Hopefully this is simple enough to understand. A div whose background color is either white or blue based on whether or not the dark mode is true or false. If I go to Google Chrome now and open this, by default I see white, but if I click on toggle theme, it becomes blue. If I click on toggle theme, it becomes white. That is the ugly way to do it. Why is this ugly, Harkirat? This is ugly because you have this state variable you will have to propagate throughout your application. Even though this is how it happens in a lot of libraries like MUI, udhar bhi there are theme providers to make this better. But this first principles approach that you might have thought of is good, but Tailwind provides something better. Tailwind says कि यार आपकी लाइट और डार्क थीम ही होगी ना, rather than maintaining a state variable, don't do it. Whenever you are giving styles, give them like this कि by default white mode में क्या दिखने चाहिए and डार्क मोड में कैसे दिखने चाहिए. Tailwind says कि यार this is how you can give me a Tailwind class. By default it should be white. Whenever the user is on the dark mode, it should be blue. This is why throughout code bases you will find this becomes really long because it has both the white and the dark background colors, fonts, everything set. You can also write, whatever. Text should be black by default and dark mode mein text should be white. Something like this. And if I type whatever, toggle theme over here, the font color as well as the background color should change. What have I done? कि ये होगा light mode में, ये होगा dark mode में, ये होगा light mode में, ये होगा dark mode में. Let's see, does that work? That's wrong. Text dash white. I see that the color is white. I also see the background color is blue. That is because the default theme on my Mac is dark right now. If I go to my Mac settings, preferences, and select theme over here, by default, I have said, यहीं कहीं होता है. I'm sure you guys can see it. There you go. By default, I've selected dark. If I select light over here, and if I refresh, it shits bricks. It does not propagate. Dark colon this thing. Let me open this in Brave. Could have sworn this should have been white. Background dash white, dark blue, black, text white. System preferences. I did select light over here. Let me go to app.handexdevs.com. Here also it is dark. Here also I would have expected it to be. If I go to projects.handexdevs.com, here also it is dark by default. Unless my Chrome has some settings that is overriding it. Let's see if someone in chat already knows this. Or Q&A. Local storage. Browser. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think my browser has some settings that is overriding it to be dark mode. My eyes. Theme. There you go. There was theme somewhere. Oh no, this isn't it. Dark mode. Firstly, let me just change this back to dark. My eyes are hurting. But it does work in Chrome. Search dark, alright. Modes it is set to device message. So let me override it to light over here and refresh. Achha, either to we store it in local storage, so makes sense. But in our application, we don't do that. Dark mode selector. Oh, you guys are so right. I'm a dumbo. This isn't a fresh Tailwind project. I added something extra here. I added this over here. Not that removing it fixed it. Let me restart, refresh. I did change this before the class. I basically changed the Tailwind config a bit. Doesn't work like Kirat bhaiya, prefer color scheme. Try incognito. Let's try on incognito. Nah, that didn't fix it. Could have sworn this should have worked. Someone said browser change karo. System preferences, light, refresh. There we go. It's working on Brave now. It's not working on Chrome because I hard coded it on Chrome or something. It's working on Chrome as well now. Alrighty. There we go guys. What was the problem? देखो अगर fresh Tailwind project use करोगे you will be fine. The problem was the project that I have pushed to GitHub and the project that I was using locally has dark mode set to selector. We will be using this very soon. But locally or in a default Tailwind project you will not have this. Your Tailwind config will be much simpler. You will not have this line of code. Because I had this line of code, it was expecting something else. That is why dark mode did not appear. अब मैंने वो हटा दिया है, तो अब my machine is in light mode. I see light mode here. Now let me fix that really quickly. My machine is in dark mode. I see dark mode in my website as well. So Tailwind very well works with your machine preferences, your browser preferences, and is able to render a website based on that. If you look at the code is simple enough. The code looks something like this. कि by dark mode में blue होना चाहिए background color, otherwise it should be white. The problem is how can I make it configurable on a button click? अब मैं ऐसा तो नहीं कर सकता कि if the user clicks on this button, I change the whole machine's theme. The person will have a default preference जो उसने machine में डाल रखी है MacBook में. He might want to override it from time to time. He might want to do something like whatever, clicking on this button and making it light. So to be able to support that, you go to the Tailwind dark mode toggler. This is basically what I was doing before the class, and you try to read through their docs. What do we want to do? Toggling the dark mode manually. By default, so it is working. If my machine has dark mode, I see dark. If my machine has light mode, I see light. To toggle it manually, what do you have to add? Dark mode selector to your Tailwind config. ये मैंने डाल दिया था, which is why it was not working. But as soon as I removed it, it started to work. To make it toggleable manually, you can add dark mode set to selector. If you want to support toggling dark mode manually instead of relying on the operating system, अभी तक we are relying on the operating system. Now we want to allow the user to change it manually. You set dark mode to selector के मतलब एक CSS selector होगा, उसको देखियो. Based on that, decide whether or not this is a light or a dark preference of the user. Dark mode selector means कि यार whenever this user is rendering this application, इनका जो HTML tag है top का, their top level HTML tag, see if it has a dark class associated with it. If it does have a dark class, means उसको dark theme render करना है. If it doesn't, then उसको light theme में render करना है. Now this gets a little complicated in React. We'll see why. But do we understand क्या हो रहा है? As soon as you make dark mode selector, now if I go to this project and go to tailwind.config.js, set dark mode to be selector, what happens? By default, dark comes. Because HTML में मैंने डाल रखा है class equal to dark. I had already put it there. If I go back to Visual Studio Code and show you the default HTML that we have. If you remember in React, यहाँ पे your React gets hydrated, your React project gets put over here. That is what is happening over here. If you look at div id equal to root, इसके अंदर आपका React project आता है. But the top level HTML tag, this one right here, इसमें if class is set to dark mode render होगा. If class is not set to anything, तो light mode render होगा. If class is set to dark, तो dark mode render होगा. So what do I have to do when I click on this button? I have to change this HTML tag. React exists over here. यहाँ पे we have done a bunch of state management, conditionally rendered classes. मैं कुछ condition state variables के through, I can conditionally render some classes over here. What I want is to go beyond the boundary of React and change the class attribute over here. अगर dark है तो remove करना है, नहीं है तो add करना है. So if I go to Visual Studio Code, if I look at the toggle dark mode button, this one right here, what do we want to do? यहाँ पे हमें क्या करना है? We want to get the HTML tag and change something over here. So how can you do it? Document.query selector HTML dot class list. यहाँ पे you have to write the whole logic. Let's log this first. Console.log this thing. If I refresh, click on the button, what do I see? It is an array which has the first element to be dark. So what do I have to do? I have to remove this from this array. So if, excuse me, if this thing includes dark, then I have to remove it. This thing equal to empty array, else I have to add it. Something like this. Let's see, does that work? Doesn't work. Dot includes is not a function. Let's see how they do it in the Tailwind docs. Most probably this is not an array and a complex object, so I just can't call dot includes over here. What they suggest is something like this. Classlets dot toggle dark. Document dot classlists dot toggle dark. कि जो डार्क क्लास है इसको चेंज कर दो टू ऐड और रिमूव इट बेस्ड ऑन सर्टन कंडीशंस. इनकी कंडीशंस यहाँ हैं. हमारी कंडीशन माइट बी वट एवर, लेट्स जस्ट डू हमारी कंडीशन वुड बी कि वो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है कि नहीं. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद अ स्टेट वेरिएबल एंड वी कैन फिक्स दैट एज वेल, और रिमूव द स्टेट वेरिएबल एज वेल. बट और लेट्स जस्ट डू मैथ डॉट रैंडम. रैंडमली we'll make it dark mode or light mode. What have we done? We have written a button. बटन में हमने लिखा है कि यार जो HTML टैग है सबसे ऊपर, document.querySelector.html, इसकी जो क्लासेस हैं उसमें जो डार्क क्लास है उसको टॉगल करना है. Make it true or false based on this condition. Now our condition is math.random is greater than 0.5, which means randomly will render true or false. Let's see if that works. May not work, or it does work. So I click on it randomly, it's going true or false. Now what do we really want to do? What we really want is कि यार यहाँ पे कि बंदा चाहता क्या है? What does the person want? And in our case, we want to just toggle it. तो अगर वो क्लास ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करती थी हटा दो, नहीं एग्जिस्ट करती थी तो डाल दो. So what can we do over here? We first have to log what class list is, because हमें चेक करना है कि ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है कि नहीं. Even though the Tailwind docs probably will give it away. Nah, they don't. So let's just log this. I'm sure someone has a better answer to this as well. But let me log this and see क्या है ये. Is it an array or is it something else? Light. My eyes. There we go. It isn't an array. Ugh. Maybe I can do this. Dot 0. Yeah. Even though there are like better ways to do it, what I'm doing is कि यार अगर 0th क्लास जो है वो डार्क थी तो उसको हटा दो, और अगर नहीं थी तो ऐड कर दो. इफ द डार्क क्लास एग्जिस्टेड ओवर देयर, व्हाट डज दिस लाइन डू? क्या इस एलिमेंट की जो क्लासेस हैं उसमें से जो 0th क्लास है, इफ इट इज डार्क then make it false, else make it true. Now this is problematic because what if the first one was dark or the second one was dark? So this works under this conditions. It can get ugly. You should clean this logic up. But if I refresh now and click on toggle theme, seems to be working. So can you now build the complete application of yours? What do you have to do? Okay, whatever, div hi there, and let's say this has whatever text dash 2xl dark colon text dash red, and otherwise whatever text dash blue dash 200 red dash 200. Have that throughout your application. So if it is the dark theme, then it is red in color. If it is the white theme, then it is blue in color. Theme समझ आ गई? Can we do a poll? To make it toggleable, you have to go through these hoops. To make it toggleable in Next.js, it is much easier. There is a external library, some React Next theme provider that you can use. For React or for Tailwind or for raw HTML, CSS and JavaScript, if you want to make it manually toggleable, you have to number one go to tailwind.config.js and tell it कि यार dark mode you will find based on a selector. What is that selector? कि जो global HTML tag है, whether or not the class element has been set on it. Do we understand this? इसमें क्या नहीं समझ आया? All right. Small Q&A before we proceed. Anything? Do you guys just need a recap or something else? We don't need the second parameter though. Oh, if you can just call toggle. That you might be right actually. Toggle might just toggle it to true and false. Let's see. Recap. All right. Let me try one more thing that someone suggested that looks right to me, and then I will recap. Refresh. You're right. You can just call dot class list dot toggle dark. It will toggle it. Add it back, remove it, add it back, remove it like that. Or if you need some specific conditions, कि यार इस condition के अंदर it should be true, इस condition के अंदर it should be false, then you need the function. Else you don't need the second attribute. ठीक है जी. I'm going to start from scratch. I have an empty project जिसमें मुझे themes add करनी है. I need to add themes in this specific project. This is what my tailwind.config.js looks like right now. कुछ special नहीं है इसमें. This is the same tailwind you would get, config you would get when you install a random project. It won't have this very big block, but this very big block has nothing to do with dark mode. We start to write our code. कि यार I want to create a website that looks black in dark mode and white in white mode. So the way to do that is, what should the background color be? It should be white in light mode, but in dark mode it should be whatever, bg-black, let's say. I also want to make it take the complete height of the screen, so h-screen. This is all that I've written. कि background color है white by default. अगर dark mode on है तो it is black. Let's go back here. And as you can see, it appears to be black right now because my machine preferences are dark. My machine preferences say dark mode. That is what appears over here. If my machine preferences become light mode, website also becomes light. If my machine preferences become dark mode, website also becomes dark. Notion has something similar. If I go to Notion, you guys see it in dark mode right now. But if I flip it on to light mode, do you see Notion becomes white as well? It does. If I flip it on to dark mode, becomes dark, because the browser has access to the operating system preferences of the user. All you have to do is write code that looks like this. By default, background color is white. In dark mode, background color is black. Let me also add a hi there here. And यहाँ पे भी I am saying कि यार ये जो heading है ना, it needs to have a background color of text color of black. But if it is in dark mode, अगर dark mode है तो background black होगा. If background is black, text should be white, वरना दिखेगा नहीं. So this is the code that I write. Text should be black by default, but if dark mode is on, text should be white. Let's see, does it work? If I go over here, I see hi there, that is white in color. If I change my system preferences to light mode, hi there becomes black, background becomes light. So this is all the code that you have to write if you are not doing toggling. अगर आपको toggling करनी है manually, ignore the operating system, allow me to toggle it manually, then what do you have to do? Number one, in your tailwind.config.js, you have to set dark mode to be selector. You do not want to depend on the operating system anymore. You want the dark mode should be decided based on a selector. What is this selector? It is कि यार ये जो top level index.html है ना, this top level index.html, does the HTML tag over here have class set to dark? Of course, it can have multiple classes, whatever, big, text, and more classes. But the point is, if it is set to dark, that means कि अंदर सारे dark mode enable हो जाएगा basically, irrespective of the operating system. अब अगर operating system भी light बोल रहा है, but since there is a dark class here, everything will be rendered in dark mode. So if I go to app.jsx now, and see how it looks. If you look at it here, it is in dark mode. Let me change my system preferences to go light mode. Notice the website did not change. Website is still in dark mode. Dark mode, still in dark mode. Light mode, still in dark mode. Why? Because अब इस पे नहीं मैटर करता कि ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम क्या कह रहा है. What matters is whether or not this HTML tag that you see has class set to dark. अगर मैं ये निकाल दूं तो white mode आ जाता है. अगर मैं यहां डाल दूं class equal to dark तो dark mode भी आ जाता है. So all I have to do is change this attribute when a button is clicked. When a button is clicked, अगर मैं यहां पे एक बटन डाल दूं टॉगल थीम, तो इसके ऑन क्लिक पे क्या होना चाहिए? We need to change the class of the parent. So what can we do? Document dot query selector HTML dot class list कि इसकी क्या क्या क्लासेस हैं dot toggle dark. क्या जो डार्क क्लास है उसको टॉगल कर दो, रिमूव कर दो, ऐड कर दो, रिमूव कर दो, ऐड कर दो. अगर है तो रिमूव कर दो, नहीं है तो ऐड कर दो. इफ इट इज देयर रिमूव इट, इफ इट इज नॉट देयर ऐड इट. If I refresh, there is a toggle theme button here. It is just black in text. So let me fix that. कि यार this button should have in dark mode, text color should be white. If I refresh, I see the toggle theme button now. If I click on it, theme actually toggles. Notice what is actually happening is this attribute is changing. And that is, propagating the theme to your Tailwind class. You are not depending on the operating system anymore. Do we understand this now? Good recap. %95 is great. 91% now. What's left, guys? Building the thing. Can we start building our design for, oopsie daisy, that was quite a suggestion there. Can we start building this? Can you build it with dark mode? Can you try at least? How does this application work with dark mode? I don't think it's doable in 30 minutes, but we can try. Let's do silent coding for 30 minutes. I don't think there's anything else, right? That's left to do. I think we understand everything. We understand toggling themes also now. We understand translate by the thing that you will use here. We understand sidebars. How can you make them toggleable? So what is left is just building it. One more thing actually will be difficult here. Let me quickly share that. When the screen becomes small, these cards should appear one below the other. ये कल किया था वैसे, so it shouldn't be too difficult. If you remember grids, hopefully remember कि how can you make, if the window becomes really small, all three of these windows come one below the other. In fact, you might have to change things a bit. You might have to add good morning Prableen at the top, then her card, then her meetings, then her this thing. Or you might just write good morning Prableen, the meetings, and just schedule a webinar. ये card की तो जरूरत ही नहीं. So you can figure out. You probably don't need this top bar on mobile either. So these are things that you will have to write based on the MD prefix. And yeah, I think we've covered everything that's needed to build this. All that's left is to build this. So now, last question and probably last poll for today. We have two options. Let me just write the options. We can do either one of them. One is going to be silent coding. So I will also try to code this thing that you see on screen. You can also try to code this on screen. Second would be answering questions if you have any. I don't think there are too many questions, so I'm leaning more towards coding. But let's see where you guys are at. What should we do? Tailwind is done with that. So next week is going to be Postgres and Prisma. Hopefully both can be covered in a week. And then then we start to build the projects. What should we do? Silent coding. I say silent coding because I'm hoping you guys are coding and I don't have to explain what I'm writing. You can just read it, or we can do Q&A and answer questions now. Either is fine for me. Save and launch. And if none of these, then Silent coding it is. You guys will make me code, huh? Alright guys, we're going to code this for another, whatever, 30 minutes. Let's see how far we can get. Let's race against time. You against me. Let's see who can code this better. I won't go too fast. I'll explain a little bit also beech mein for the complete beginners who are left. So how would you build something like this? The approach I would take is, I would build this home component first. I would build this logo component, this profile picture component. I would make this generic so that it takes the size as the input, so I can reuse it over here. Then I will create the profile card component. I'll create I would call this, meeting row component. Then I'll create the meetings component. Then I'll create this card. And then stitching them together is the easy bit. The harder bit is making every design pixel perfect. And stitching them together is much easier. So that's the approach I'm going to take. So what I'm focusing on is more on the final polishes than the structure. If you want, I can also code the structure. So let me first code the structure with some ugly elements. Then I will try to, start to code make it pretty basically. I'll make it pretty in the end because that's the easy bit I would assume. Just the manual bit. उसमें बस मेहनत ही करनी है कि अच्छा radius कितना है and what is this color, figuring that out. That's the hard work wala bit. The difficult bit is just making sure positioning is working. If I make it smaller, sidebar goes away. If I make it bigger, sidebar comes back. Things like these. How can I toggle sidebar by clicking a button? So let's build the structure first through some random divs. Then I will in the end, create the components. That's the approach I'm taking. You can take the other approach as well. The better approach would be to build the components first and then stitch them together. All right. What we want is, we want a sidebar. We want the main content, and the main content is going to be nothing but a div class name equal to grid dash calls dash 12 first div, which is going to have h dash, let's say 500 or 96. Seems to have some sort of a boundary over, what am I saying, border over here. Surrounded dash 2xl, some shadow, I don't know if it's shadow or box shadow, one of these two classes. And I'm just going to give it a background color of red. That's the first div that we need. How many columns does it span? If this is 12 columns, it probably spans like 3 of them. It will span like 6 of them. I don't know, like 5 of them. 3, 5 and 4. So I'm going to say you are going to span call dash span dash 3. Then I'll create the other one, which will be 5. Third one would be 4. This I'm going to make green. This I'm going to make yellow. And if you remember, this thing has been translated up a bit. So I'm going to add a minus translate dash y dash 48. And in तीनों के साथ साथ I need another this image on top of it. So let me just add a div for now, which has a fixed height, and let's say it's black in color for now. We don't have that fancy image over there, just black colored div. Div class name equal to h dash whatever 48 bg dash black. Let's see how that looks. It doesn't compile only because I have not defined the sidebar component. So let me quickly define that. Fresh. That looks decentish. Only thing is I'm going way too up here. So 12. This probably needs to be smaller, the first guy. Let's make this 10 and let's make this span 2, this span 5 and this span 3. That looks closer to what we want. We need some padding all across. So how do you add? There's a way to add gap. I think it's gap dash 2. Yeah, 4, 8. That looks decentish. Now let me add the sidebar. The way to add the sidebar is, again, we have done it. I'm going to add class name equal to w-96 h-screen and give it a bg-red-100. That's the sidebar, and I need to make sure both of them are right next to each other. So class name equal to flex, and let me make the width of this guy full. So main content is going to have class name equal to w dash full. Sort of getting there. थोड़ी सी padding चाहिए इस वाले div को. So p dash 8. Margin चाहिए क्या? Oh, sorry, wrong one. Not this one, the one below it. Needs some padding. And that looks closer to what we want, although I would translate this to 24. Something like this. What did we want? We wanted something like this. The card is thinner. Card here is slightly more fat. This also I would say is a little bit fatter over here. So let's just increase this guy to have 6. And these guys to have 3 and 2, and this will probably be 11. Yeah, that looks decentish. There is some box shadow in all of these. How do you add shadow in Tailwind? Shadow dash LZ. So let's try that. All 3 of the cards have some level of shadow. There we go. Cool. I think the top bar is a little bit longer, so I'll make this 72. There we go. That looks closer to what we want. The only thing is, I think the sidebar is a little bit longer, so let's make the sidebar a little bit longer. 102 होता है? नहीं. That's fine. We can fix that later. All right. What do we want next? We want the sidebar to be toggleable. So let me add a state variable at the very top. And ideally, you should have this in some sort of context API. Const sidebar open, comma set sidebar open. Is a state variable. I have initialized it to true. It should be initialized to true or false based on whether or not you're on a mobile device. I have just initialized it to true. What this will do is the sidebar will remain open on a mobile device. The user opened your website, sidebar is open. So they'll be jarred with the sidebar. So you shouldn't have this true by default. Pass the same thing over here and allow the sidebar component to also update it. So यहाँ पे you can add, ideally you should add some sort of an icon. If you remember, admin100xfs.com has an icon over here that you can click on to open it and close it. How do you add icons in Tailwind, Harkirat? They suggest a bunch of these libraries that you can use. If you go to the resources section, hero icons is what I use, but all 3 of these will give you a bunch of SVGs. I usually go with hero icons, so I'm going with that. We want something closer to this, but let's see if it has something. Toggle. Lines. 3 lines. We'll just have to find something that looks open. Let's try open. Folder open, book open, lock open, folder open, envelope open. Yeah, just trying to find an icon that looks close enough to what we want. I think if there was a bars is what I want. There you go. Bars dash 3 dash bottom left. This looks good enough. So I'm going to click on this specific icon. कि यार मुझे ये चाहिए. How do you get an icon here? Yeah, you click on it. You can copy the SVG directly. You can also copy the component. I usually copy the SVG and create a fresh component in my, whatever icons folder, let's say. This one I'm going to call sidebar toggle.jsx. Export function sidebar toggle. And just return this specific SVG. SVG is nothing, it's like an image. Only it has, this exact path in there. So it scales very well. Images phatne lagte hain when you scale them up. This, since it has the actual curve data and line data in here, as you scale it up, it doesn't, it doesn't shit bricks. All right, I have this component, or this icon. I want to use it somewhere here. Okay, sidebar toggle. I'll put this inside a div with some classes like cursor pointer. Hover karne pe background should become gray. Slate is similar to gray. Something like this. And when you click on this, set sidebar open, not sidebar open, just toggle it. So if I go back here now and open whatever localhost : 5173, does not work because there's probably some error in the console. Sidebar toggle is not defined. Oh, don't need it anymore. This looks good enough. There we go. Where is that icon? Sidebar main content. Where did I add that button? Sorry, I'm a little confused here. My bad. Here I need to do a sidebar export functions sidebar toggle. I'm going to import it here. There we go. If I refresh, I see this button over here. When I click on it, the state variable changes. What do I want to happen when the state variable changes? If the sidebar is closed, what do we want? If it is open, we want this. That is fine. If it is closed, what do we want? We can either have a smaller sidebar with a toggle icon, or we can have a fixed toggle icon at the top left of the screen. So the other thing you can do is have a class name equal to fixed. That means its position is fixed. Top -0, left -0. It is fixed to the top left of the screen. And here you can add the same icon and the div right next to it. So if sidebar is not open, then return this, else return this. You don't need the if over here either. Now if I refresh, I see the toggle. If I click on the toggle, the sidebar goes away. There's still the toggle over there. It's just very hard to see it. If I click on it, opens, click on it, close. So we have a sidebar implementation. Of course, we need to make everything pretty now. This is good enough. Let me push this code. Let me put all of this in class-notes. And here I'm going to say part1.jsx, where I'm going to paste all of this so you guys can see it on your side as well. That took me around 17 minutes to code the structure of the application. Now comes the most difficult bit. Given you have the structure of this page, everything is working as expected, how do you style it? How do you make sure it looks closer to what you see over here? One more thing we have to do is, when you make the screen smaller and it goes below a certain point, two things should happen. One, these should appear one below the other. Two, the sidebar should close automatically. So Let's do that. And 3, when you open the sidebar in mobile mode, when you open the sidebar, it should come on top of these elements. It should not, it should not make these guys squeeze. It should come on top of these elements. So let's do that. Let's first do the easiest thing, which is all the 3 blocks appear one below the other. How can you do that? We did this yesterday. Here, by default, I want calls span 11. I will take 11 columns. I will take 11 columns. I will take 11 columns. But after the medium breakpoint, MD colon, after the medium breakpoint, I want them to appear right next to each other. So simple enough. Let's refresh. Let me push it again. Let me start the project locally. If I refresh, if I go small, nothing happens. Why? I've written calls. I should be writing call. It's my bad. If I refresh, still doesn't work. Why? MD colon call span 2, call span 6, call span 3, call span 11, call span 11, call span 11. And the parent has grid calls 11. What am I missing now? If I go below a certain point, let me debug. The way I would debug is I would get rid of all 3 of these and see how it looks right now. Still looks the same. That's because I'm changing everything in the wrong file. I'm changing everything in part1.jsx, the thing that I pushed. I need to change everything in app.jsx. So now if I try, they appear right next to each other. If the screen is big, if the screen is small, they appear one below the other. Of course, there is too much margin everywhere. We can fix that. I mean, one thing we should do is the first one should probably hide only. If this is your design, if this is your design, you don't want the person to see this. You probably want the person to see this and this. Ideally, you want to see this first. But to keep things simple, let's render this and then render this. Isko hum hide kar dete hain. So how do you hide? If you remember, what we want is, if it is by default, it should be hidden. And above the MD breakpoint, it should be block. Baki dono should always be visible. Let's see, does that work? If it is big, I see the 3 of them. If it is small, the first one goes away, second and third one I see. Good enough. Maybe one more thing, as I said, is you don't really need this top black bar. Ye desktop pe achhi lagti hai. Mobile pe you want to see the contents directly. So I can also hide this one. Okay. By default, you will be hidden. And MD ke upar you will be whatever visible, which will be through block. So now if I make this smaller, as it approaches mobile, the black bar goes away. You have a simple first and second card that you're going to look at. As you make it bigger, you have the card, you have the normal design. What is the last thing that is left? When you go really small, when you go across the mobile breakpoint, the sidebar should close automatically. How do you do that? You need some code to run over here. KR goes beyond breakpoint. A hook like this you need, where you will do this set sidebar open to be not S, something like this. Question is, how can you create a hook like this goes beyond breakpoint? I'm sure there's one that exists out there that you can look at, or you can create one of your own. What do you want this guy to do? This guy will take a function as an input and call that function whenever you go from above or below a certain breakpoint. There are easier ways to do it. There is something called use media queries, a hook like this that you can create that will tell you if you've gone below or above. This I saw this morning only. Maybe we can use that also. Let me show you the code base of CMS. Yeah, that's actually better. If you look at the code base of CMS, this morning I was looking at it, and what I saw was, okay, the sidebar sort of goes to the bottom if you make your screen small. So I was trying to look at the code, and if you look at it, it exists somewhere here. App bar or nav bar, I don't know, one of these. Sidebar item. It's something over here. I just don't know which one it is. Sidebar items. Let me search through the code base for that. App bar. I think it's this only. And here there is a use media queries hook that this person has created, which is used like this. Is it between medium to XL? Am I currently from medium to XL? What do I want? Is it less than medium? So what can I do? I can use this use media query hook. This is again a certain hook, or like a custom hook. What does it do? Anytime the query changes or the state variable changes, वैसे तो you don't need this second one here, but चलो, you do actually. Whenever this query changes, it will run this window.matchMedia query. You can run this over here also. In my console, if I write window.matchMedia, whatever the custom query is, let's say this, min width is this thing. What does it return? It returns matches true. ये बड़ा है 768 से. Let me make this smaller than 768. Then let's see what does it print. It prints false. ये बड़ा नहीं है. We want something very similar. We want कि ये मीडिया क्वेरी अगर रन हो तो क्या ये बड़ा हो रहा है या छोटा हो रहा है. तो what it does is it creates a listener. Media.add listener. You can create a listener on a query. So what we can do is, if you have a query like this, तुम इसको ऐसे भी रन कर सकते हो, window.matchesMedia. Or what you can do is, you can write const media equal to window.matches some condition, which in our case was, this. And then you can call media.add listener कि यार कभी भी ये चेंज हो ना ट्रू से फॉल्स पे, तो इसको लॉग कर देना प्लीज. console.log. Well, now as I go from big to small, can you see new log came false? If I make it bigger, new log came true. यही तो चाहिए. When it goes from big to small, we want the sidebar to close. वो हमें मिल गया through this, listener that we can add. Now we can add this listener ourselves or convert it into a hook, which is what is done over here. This listener has been converted into a hook कि यार जब भी ये कॉल हो, जब भी ये क्वेरी चेंज हो, एक नया लिसनर बना दो जो कि इस मैचेस वेरिएबल को चेंज कर दे फ्रॉम ट्रू टू फॉल्स, which is what is getting returned from this hook, which is what we get over here. So let's try that. Let's try to get this hook into our code base. Something similar I was writing goes beyond a certain point. Something similar we are using now, which is the use media queries hook. What am I going to write? I'm going to write const is mobile or is desktop equal to use media queries. This is the query. Desktop होगा अगर 768 से बड़ा है. Even though this isn't true, it's probably is greater than MD, but ठीक है, let's call it is desktop for now. And what can I do now? कि यार अगर इस desktop change होता है, if is desktop changes ever, then I want to set sidebar to be false. If is desktop equal to false, तब अगर बंदा if is desktop goes from true to false, अगर ये change होता है तो भाई sidebar को बंद कर दो. Let's see, does that work? If I'm over here, sidebar is not appearing. Or let me make this. Hold on. If is desktop false, set sidebar open. False. Why is this running right now? Issue में. If हाँ सही तो है. Matches is true. Why is this state variable becoming false? Or am I missing something obvious? If is desktop is false, this thing, all right. Console.error is desktop. Refresh. What do we see over here? We see true and true over here. Oh, कभी false भी आया क्या? शुरू में false भी आया. Anyways, we should do this वैसे. If the user goes from छोटा सा बड़ा also, then also the sidebar should pop up again, right? So, anyways, this is fine. तो अब इसको अगर हम छोटा करेंगे, sidebar goes away. If we make it bigger, sidebar comes back. Sidebar goes away, sidebar comes back. So, what's left? Adding some animation to it, transition property that we learned, and that way you can use this button to toggle it, and you can make it smaller so it automatically toggles off. यहाँ पे आने के बाद you can re-toggle it, but what is the problem here? कि जब desktop में toggle कर रहे हो, it is eating onto the main content. It should open on top of it. Figure that one out. That's the assignment for today. Let me push the current code. We're at 10 here. Let me push the current code without using any external library like shadcn. How can you make the sidebar appear on top of everything? Just one thing you have to change, like position it absolutely, and it should do it. But let me know if that's not the case. I think in like one line of code change, you should be able to do it. Let me only try it and see if it works. Basically something like this. Oh, sorry. In the sidebar component, what we want is if not sidebar open this, if sidebar is open, we want by default it should be relatively positioned. Sorry, absolutely positioned. But on a bigger machine, it should be relatively positioned. See, does that do it? I don't know. If I make it smaller and open the sidebar, yeah, that didn't do it. So it's maybe more than one line of code change. Let me try one more thing. Fixed top dash 0, left dash 0. Actually, that's my bad. That might not have done it. Yeah, that does it as well. What have I done? I've conditionally set it to, fixed if the user is on a mobile device. Position fixed means it is fixed. It's not overlapping with anything else over here. If you make it relative, then it, is a normal child in the DOM. But if you make it fixed, it is fixed on top of everyone, which is what we want, right? If the user is on a mobile device, sidebar should appear like this. If the user is on a desktop device, then the sidebar should appear like this. Structure हो गया पूरा. Structure में nothing is pending. Only thing that's pending is animations. Next part, of course, is actually styling it. Can you guys try that out? If not, let me know. I mean, I can make a video, but that's just a lot of hard work, and Gadha Muzuri trying to just making it pixel perfect. The difficult bits, the mathematical bits, the conditional logics are all done. So hopefully, this is easy enough to build by yourself as well. With that, we'll do one round of Q&A and then we'll call it. Any question? Anything I can help answer? Atom family and atom selector offline videos should have been posted already. If not, Akash, can you ping Rookie to do it? It is in week 11. So yeah, you should you'll find it there. Website. We will not be learning about L2s at all. So most probably no ZKs or rollup, but if we have the time in the end, we might. All right, anything else? A few more. Review this code. Piracy related. Yeah. Right. Oh, this one's good. Pretty clean actually. Whoever built this. Sort of. I mean, some things need to change, but yeah, overall it looks pretty good. Yeah, that's exactly what we need, right? It comes on top of everything else. All right, piracy related. All right, I've opened a few Notion docs. Let's look at them really quickly. No, not from this. You guys should download it from harkira.classics.co.in. Not on app.nextsteps.com. I know about this. That's why we're not uploading it there. क्योंकि यहाँ पे करना बहुत आसान है. It is difficult to do it on harkira.classics.co.in. So try it over there. On a latest video. पिछली जो 5 videos आई हैं उनमें से try करो. That looks good. This looks various sections. All I need to make it more responsive. Let's see. Oh no. Oh, there you go. Wait, what is this? Oh, add widget. Confirm. Can you like move them around? Seems like you can't. Decent. Room for improvement. It's like pretty basic UI at the moment, which is fine. Like you might be a complete beginner, in which case, this is great. But yeah, like a lot of obvious things missed. The spacing is incorrect. They're not centrally aligned. This is weird. Yeah, there's no button not disaligned. You get the idea, right? A lot of scope for improvement right now. Dream higher. Oh, looks pretty good. It's like a job board. Nice. Pretty clean. Use your email. Okay. My email to do what? I saw this already yesterday, right? Anything specific you want me to test now? Can't find it. Anything specific? I tried this yesterday. It was pretty good. Try your email, you said. Use your email. Where? I'm already logged in. I can see it. Oh boy, what is that? It's like very jarring. Yeah, I don't know. Unsure what you want me to test here. Looks good. All right, that was it. Smaller Q&A today. A lot of people dropped off, probably because I started silent coding. But hopefully that was insightful. Anything else? Any other question, guys? Teach types before building projects. Yeah, probably should do that. That means 2 more weeks to go. Why do you upload with late? Classics? Yeah, I try to fix that. No reason. I just I slept, but I'll try to be more on point and try to upload it by 2ish tomorrow. But yeah, there's no reason. On harkira.classics uploading, it's actually not too difficult. Yesterday, what happened was I had to edit out the video because end में मैंने कुछ दिखा दिया था. So I had to do like 3 steps before uploading. But I'll try to do it. All right. Someone asked, I'm stuck in backend, but stuck in front end. I mean, you can build a janky front end for your app for now. You don't have to be a front end engineer. But if you're targeting full stack, then you probably should. तो ये long story short, अगर बहुत ही गुस्सा आ रहा नहीं हो पा रहा तो फिर janky सा front end बना के डाल दो भी के लिए. But eventually you will have to learn, especially if you're going through the route of getting higher projects. वो तो देखेंगे ही भाई, मतलब unless you're building very pure backend projects, CLIs, things like these, people will look at your UI. So learn it sooner than later is all I will say. Cool. With that, we'll end it, guys.